Last week, I watched The Holiday and declared it to be, in my book, the best Christmas rom com of all time, and I stand by that. I had a blast, and it immediately shot up to my must watch on Christmas morning list of films that is my yearly tradition. And so I just think this is the case of the universe doing what it does with the Wheel of Fortune, whereby it gives me something I really loved, 10 over 10 new notes, and then followed it up with one of the most infuriating movies I have ever had the misfortune to watch. And that there watches is the absolute mess of a film called The Family Stone. Of course, before I make your ears bleed with the many, many ways in which the family stone had me reaching for a drink every couple of minutes, if this is your first time finding my channel or watching any of my videos, hello, I'm Noria, and welcome to Romcom Ganda Tuesday, a video series where I do a first time watch or a rewatch of rom-coms from the late 80s to early 2010s just to see how well they hold up, especially with regards things that younger me missed or would have missed when it first dropped. Right now, the last couple of weeks, I've seen me working my way through Christmas movies, of which the Family Stone will be the last I'll be tackling this year, since I will be taking a break from making content after Friday's video to rest my body and mind until I'm back filming videos by January 5th. I might come back briefly after next week's season finale for Heated Rivalry, as I'm sure I would most likely want to talk about the end of season one. But all in all, this would be my last Romcom Ganda video for the year. I'm bringing this up because I would like to know, seeing that there are still some Christmas movie recommendations in the comments you all have made in previous videos. Do you want me to continue to watch those movies up until the end of January? At which point I will then go back to my regular, not holiday specific picks. Which, side notes, as always, if you have a movie you want me to add to my list, do drop them in the comments. Check out the playlist first to confirm that it's not a movie I've already watched. But yeah, I am still undecided if I should continue to watch Christmas movies when I return on the week of January 5th, or if I should just go back to the regular movies. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I do appreciate your input and I will take them into consideration. And speaking of appreciation, a quick thank you to my lovely patrons and YouTube members whose support have been instrumental in helping me continue to make content, especially since I started doing this full time at the start of the year, which was the last time I was in paid employment. And a special shout out to Lena and Holly for their extra support. You get all the hearts and kisses too. Mwah. If you too would like to support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member to enjoy certain perks, even get a shout out, the link to do so is in the description bar. And with that said, the Family Stone opens on a store. It's the days leading up to Christmas, and Meredith Morton and Everett Stone are picking up Christmas presents as they prepare to head over to his parents' place for the holidays. Meredith is terrified as this would be her first time ever meeting a boyfriend Everett's family, and Everett tries to calm her down, telling her that she has nothing to worry about. It turns out, however, that Meredith is very right to be worried since Everett's family all arrive at home, including his youngest sister and the baby of the family, Amy, who then starts bad mouthing Meredith to the others about how she's stiff and awkward and has a noticeable tick where she keeps clearing her throat while talking. The others, of course, being the entirety of the Stone brood, from Sybil, the mother, to Kelly, the father, and Everett's siblings, Ben, Susanna, and Thad, the youngest son who is deaf and gay and has plans to adopt a child with his partner, Patrick. They're all in this, listening to this. And so when Everett and Meredith arrive at the Stone house, it's to a not very friendly welcome, with them treating Meredith a lot like an outsider, always looking at her and studying her and judging her because of her seemingly uptight behavior and how she seems unable to relax, which, can anyone blame her? Really? Anyway, Meredith doesn't really gel as well with the family, and no one seems to like her except for maybe Ben, Everett's younger brother, who likes her in a romantic sense as well. But Meredith keeps trying. Her refusal to share a room with Everett whilst they are under his parents' house, which other families might have read as her just not feeling comfortable being so open about their sex life with the entirety of the Stone clan, but instead they read it as her pretending and seemingly even more uppity. And it doesn't help matters either that for Meredith and Everett to not share the same room, it meant that Meredith had to take Amy's room and Amy spent the night sleeping on the couch. This, of course, doesn't make her happy at all. Plus, Sybil, Everett's mother, who is very aware that her son most likely wants to ask for his grandmother's ring to use in his proposal to Meredith, doesn't want this to happen because she does not approve of Meredith either and keeps trying to avoid the conversation, all the while subtly making her disapproval of Meredith known. Whilst playing charades later that night, Amy forces Meredith to go next and accuses her of being racist towards Patrick, Everett's brother, that's Thad's partner, who happens to be a black man. This ends up being the last straw for Meredith, who calls on her sister Julie for emotional support to come spend the holidays with her at Everett's family home, and then she picks up her luggage with the decision to spend the rest of her time at the inn in town. Now, you would think this clear proof that the Stones are going too far would be enough to, I don't know, get them to ease off of this woman a bit, but you would be wrong. Whilst Everett tries to get his family to back off, it doesn't really do as much, and Meredith continues to move about the home like she's walking on eggshells. Whilst even Everett's parents, in the privacy of their bedroom, agree that Meredith is not the one for their son, although to be fair, Kelly is much kinder in his words and disapproval towards Meredith than Sybil is. We also learn, however, that part of the reason behind Sybil's behavior is the fact that she is dying. Her cancer, which was in remission, has returned, and the few family members who happen to know the truth are dealing with their grief in the different ways in which they know how to. Meanwhile, help for Meredith soon arrives and Julie is in town. Both Thad and Everett go to pick her up at the bus station, and we see a clear case of Everett starting to fall for Julie. But it's not just Everett who likes Julie. The entire Stone clan are all doting on her after her clumsy first meet with Everett and Tad, which has Meredith jealous as she can see the clear preferential treatment that her sister is getting. It doesn't help matters either that later that night at dinner, Meredith can't seem to keep her mouth shut and gets into an argument with Thad and Patrick, the only gay couple at the table, mind you, about their upcoming adoption of a baby and if they would be okay if their kid turned out to be gay, because according to her, every parent would rather their child be normal. And not going to lie, I had to take several deep breaths in this scene. Also, quick side note. Julie asking if Patrick and Thad had a preference for the race of their child also had me side eyeing her and her question. But as the audience, we're meant to read her question as her being thoughtful, whilst Meredith was being thoughtless. But as a black queer woman, both their questions were asked to me. Anyway, Meredith just cannot seem to take a hint and keeps pushing and pushing until Kelly finally loses his temper and slams his open palm on the dinner table to shut her down. Meredith flees from the table after profusely apologizing and tries to drive away, but she keeps crashing the car, and so Ben runs outside to get into the driver's seat, telling her that he knows where he wants to take her. Where he decides to take her to is a bar, and Meredith, after having downed several bottles of beer, unwinds and starts dancing and buys everyone at the bar drinks and even invites Brad Stevenson, the boy who popped Amy's cherry back when they were both high schoolers, over to the Stone family house on Christmas morning for breakfast, since she is the one who is making the family's meal the next morning. Everett and Julie, meanwhile, are searching for Meredith but don't find her and instead turn the night into a moment of getting to know each other better. And we see Everett continue to fall for Julie up until when it's time for Julie to turn in for the night and he tries to sort of ask her out on a date. Julie, reading the signs, turns him down and goes inside her hotel room, although she is happy when there's a follow up knock on her door. That happiness, however, soon turns to disappointment when her door opens to reveal Kelly Stone, who is still searching for Meredith so he can apologize for how he had lost his temper at her at dinner time. And he also takes the time whilst he's at it to apologize to Julie as well for having been witness to the outburst. Kelly, unfortunately, is unable to find Meredith and returns home to comfort his wife, who needs it as the reality of her dying continues to sink in every moment of every day. The next morning, Sybil hands Everett her mother's ring for him to use to propose to Meredith, and in an epic case of forced plot points, he instead forces the ring onto Julie's finger for seemingly no reason whatsoever. He just wants to test it, even though she kept trying to prevent him from doing so since her fingers are much bigger than her sister. And wouldn't you look at that? The ring is stuck and wouldn't come off, which then leads to Sybil, Susanna, and even Amy trying to help Julie get the ring off of her finger in various ways. Kelly, meanwhile, has made his way into Ben's room where he finds Meredith naked in Ben's bed. Meredith, who wakes up at the same time, is horrified to think that in her drunken state, she had sex with Everett's brother and tries to make her escape. And so she walks into all the trouble with the ring stuck on Julie's finger and realizes that Everett wants to propose to her. When she finally makes her way over to Everett and he tries talking to her, she cuts him off by telling him that she has no interest in marrying him. Everett, meanwhile, tells her, still in front of his entire family, mind you, that he wasn't planning on proposing to her. This is the point when Meredith puts two and two together about her sister and Everett, but can't even bring herself to get mad because she admits that she had sex with Ben. But that is when Ben shows up and says that they didn't have sex. Meredith was blackout drunk, and so he put her to bed and then slept on the floor. I am, of course, still side eyeing the fuck out of his ass because, my dude, why did you have to strip her naked before putting her into bed? The fuck? Anyway, Everett, the big hypocrite that he is, decides to get into it with his brother, chasing him all over the house, whilst Meredith, who spilled food she was making all over herself, has a moment of comfort and camaraderie with Sybil and Amy, after which they are joined by the two fighting dunderheads. Eventually, things settle, and Julie, who is finally gotten the ring off of her finger, makes her escape. But Everett learns she's left in time and chases after her to the bus station, driven by his father and his brother Thad, whilst Amy watches as they all drive off, of course, after which she starts making out with Brad Stevenson, who did show up at the house after all, thanks to Meredith's invite. Everett is able to chase after Julie to confess his feelings for her. And although she initially leaves with the boss, she then gets the boss to stop as she comes down to ask Everett what his plans for New Year's are. And Everett smiles. Stop it, the Stone family. You will never be the holiday, no matter how much you try. We then fast forward to a year later. Thad and Patrick have adopted a baby together. Susanna, who was pregnant the previous year, has given birth. Actually, she's Susanna in the movie, but I keep calling her Esme in my head. I keep calling her Esme in my head. Ben and Meredith are now together, as are Everett and Julie, and Sybil has unfortunately passed, although her entire family still keep her in mind as they gather around the Christmas tree celebrating the holidays. The end. Like I stated at the start of this video, God, I hated this movie. The minute Amy showed up to her family and was telling them just how uptight and stuck up and annoying Meredith was with her throat clearing tics, it set me off because that was Amy already poisoning the well. She had already set up the rest of her family who hadn't met Meredith at that point to have an automatic assumption about the type of person that Meredith was. And so when she arrived at their home, they weren't ready to give her a fighting chance at all. They had already categorized and classified her as someone else. I don't think it is a coincidence that of all the siblings, Ben was the only one not at home as at when Amy was trash talking Meredith. And so he was a bit open-minded towards meeting her, even though also he was attracted to her. Now, for a family that tried to pass themselves off as liberal and accepting and welcoming, it read as such a great pretense because, like I said, it was clear that they were not ready to give Meredith a chance in the first place. Cutting her out of the family photograph when she and Everett first arrived was proof for me that they were subtly drawing a line in the sand to prove to her that she wasn't acceptable to them. She wasn't one of them. And maybe the reason why I am a bit protective of Meredith is because I read her as being neurodivergent. It's in the way in which she has the tics to try and calm herself, the way the movie wrote her as being uptight, her not being able to fully understand social cues, and the way it was clear she did not like to be touched. And yet, every damn person in that family just kept hugging her and trying to touch her from the very first moment that she arrived. And that shit irked me so much because I kept screaming, give her some damn space, damn it, boundaries. Like, did she stick her foot in her mouth several times throughout this movie? Yes. That dinner conversation where she was bringing up the gay gene and talking about what parents want their child to not be normal had me screaming into a pillow with a no, 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 no on repeat because, girl, what? But at the same time, because I read her as autistic, I didn't see her comments as being malicious. I read them instead as her not being able to properly vocalize and articulate what she actually meant, which is that society as we know it is unfair to queer folks, particularly in the mid 2000s when the movie was released and she was, in her own weird way, trying to explain her worries for what their children, the younger generation, would have to face. Now, did she need to say any of that? Of course not. Did her words veer into bigoted territory? A bit. Could things have been handled better with the family if only they were not already on team Meredith can do no right? Yes. Because I read that scene as them, especially Amy and Sable, waiting for Meredith to fuck up. And the minute she did, it felt like they believed that everything they had thought about her and assumed about her was right and justified because she was the wrong woman for their perfect son. A son, by the way, who on one hand was ready to propose to a woman, not because he loved her, but because of his dying mother. And then the very next day, when her sister showed up, fell in instantaneous love, like, lost. Dermot Mulroney is such a fantastic actor, but between his role in My Best Friend's Wedding and this film, I am firmly in the camp of, God damn it, my dude, why the fuck are you always playing this wish-washy assholes? Is it a curse? Abba. And speaking of his mother, we have to come right back around to Sybil Stone because I'm not going to lie. After the credits rolled on this movie, I spent quite a number of time just sitting with it, sitting with why I walked away from the experience not having enjoyed it at all. Especially when it has such a stacked cast and has Diane Keaton as the matriarch of the family, which for me has always been a default signifier that I would love the movie in question ever since I watched her play that role in Father of the Bride with Steve Martins. And I think that that is my first bone of contention with it. Diane Keaton, may she continue to rest in peace, has always played characters I liked in varying degrees in the different movies I'd seen of her so far. But in this one, she was really unlikable and utterly insufferable. And her battle with cancer felt like the film's way of trying to manipulate our emotions into forgetting all the bullshit that she had pulled off prior to the reveal. Like, come on. It's not Meredith's fault that your stunted eldest son decided that the way he wants to deal with his grief and the impending loss of his mother is by settling down in marriage with the girl he's been sort of seeing all this while but doesn't really love. Rather than Sybil facing her dumbass son head on because she's very aware that he wants to get married for the wrong reasons, she transfers all that anger and aggression to the innocent woman who is caught in the middle of this. And it is so unfair and makes me so irritated because nowhere in this film does the narrative ever confront Sybil about her actions. Nowhere does it point it out to her. Meredith just forgives her with a quickness that still baffles me because it makes no sense. There is an irrationality to the entire mess that just gets to me and still is tied to the fact that Meredith is this neurodivergent woman surrounded by neurotypicals who is so desperate for them to like her that she doesn't actually question or advocate for herself when the dust settles. Instead, she's just so thrilled to be able to move on, or rather, the movie is thrilled to be able to move on from the mess and doesn't have any fulfilling resolution to the clusterfuck that was the last couple of days leading to Christmas that we saw on screen. None of it made sense. The speed with which everything was forgiven makes no sense. Their horrible treatment of Meredith was unfounded and unwarranted. They treated her like a fucking circus animal who is there to throw their family dynamic off whack. And what we then saw was this brilliant, successful, beautiful woman slowly spiral over her short visit because she might miss certain social cues. But she's not out of her mind in her reading of the fact that her boyfriend's family do not like like her and oscillate between hating her in the case of Amy and Sybil and barely tolerating her in the case of the others. And yet, the film makes her think that way. Everett makes her think otherwise. Like, let's be real, it was unfair to her. And it all boiled down to fucking Amy Stone, which let us also not forget the film never really explains why she so dislikes Meredith. Like, yeah, she's uptight and very high strung, but so what? Is that enough of a justification for the constant needling of her that we get in most of the movie? Only stopping because Meredith got them all a thoughtful gift of a framed picture of Sybil while she's pregnant with Amy? Like, I am not going to lie, I did find that moment and scene quite emotional. It was touching. Everyone was crying because that captured, the gift captured the beauty and strength of their mother and is how they want to remember her before she passes on, before her body weakens and shuts down and grows frail and they have to say goodbye to her forever. It is sweet and it hit me in the feels. I am not going to lie about that. However, having that moment be tied to when Sybil and Amy came around to liking and accepting Meredith makes me even more angry because what it then did was that it put the onus on Meredith, whereby she had to, through her actions, earn Sybil and Amy's acceptance, which in turn spilled over to the rest of the family, but they did not earn her forgiveness. It is such a spoiled brat way to look at things. And I said it as an only child, mind you, but Amy Stone is the most spoiled of all spoiled brats. Like, girl, grow the fuck up. The fact that this film basically had Amy and Sybil's acceptance of Meredith be tied to a considerate gift that she gave just irks me so much because they didn't change because they finally saw her as her own person, an individual with flaws and quirks who should be accepted as she is, but because she, the person that they had belittled and iced out throughout her visit, gave them something precious that they liked, and that pisses me the fuck off. And for those who are about to comment that, nah, their inability to accept Meredith isn't tied to her being on the spectrum and their neurotypical brains not being able to understand or accept her as is because their entire family lacks some fucking boundaries, please turn your attention to the marked difference in how they were so quick to accept Julie with open arms. This woman that they barely met. And in fact, before she showed up, they had initially been quick to write her off as possibly being Meredith 2.0. But the minute she shows up, all happy and radiant and beaming, and I hate to use this word, but you know that that is what they had in their heads when they first saw her. Normal, at least compared to Meredith, they were so quick to have her join the family. Matter of fact, Meredith wasn't reading too much into things, and I found her jealousy at how accepting they were of her sister compared to her a very valid emotion because I have been there. I have been the one who had to meet the families of my friends and people I was dating at the time, and I just got tongue tied and worried and sweaty and panicky because how do words work? How do I comport myself? What do I say to get them to like me and accept me? Because that is important. And I also know that I can be a bit too much. And whilst my parents love me and accept me, they've had years to watch me grow into who I am. But these other parents, I'm trying to make a good impression on them. I only get one chance. And what if they think I'm weird and not suited for their kid? Like, I have been Meredith several times over. And like Meredith, I have been able to read when the family of someone I love thinks I am weird and can't stand me. And then I see them meet someone else, someone new, and they just gel with that person. And that scene broke me. And watching it happen to Meredith in this film made me also so fucking angry. So maybe my anger at the family stone is irrational and based off of my own personal history, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to keep insisting that Meredith Morton deserved way better than the absolute bullshit that she had to endure in this film, especially from Amy, because everything started with Amy. I still cannot get over the charades night. The fact that her family let her get away with it pisses me off so badly. Patrick deserve better than to be set up as the butt of the joke. That is her basis of her trying to bully and humiliate Meredith. The bride wore black. Really, seriously. The fact that not one of them called her out on that bullshit had me legit screaming. And you know, she searched for the name of that film from all the options so that she could do the, oh, you're pointing at the black person in the room. And I also cannot believe this damn movie tried to make what happened between Everett and Julie as being on the same scale as Meredith and Ben. Like, let us be real here. This movie tried a diversion tactic where we thought that Meredith and Ben had had sex. And so when she clocked that her boyfriend, who had collected his grandmother's ring and was planning to propose to her, it doesn't matter that he told her that he wasn't planning to propose to her. After all, prior to Julie showing up, that was what he wanted to do initially, and had even purchased another ring to that effect when it seemed like his mother wouldn't hand over the heirloom he wanted to propose to her initially. When Meredith clocked that Everett had a thing for her sister, she was rightfully pissed, and then the situation got diffused because she thought that she and Everett's own brother had had sex, which would have then made her anger at her then boyfriend, making cow eyes at her sister and wanting her sister instead to be null and void, except she did not fuck Ben. They did not have sex. And yes, Ben might have been interested in her from the get-go, but she didn't reciprocate the feeling at that point in time. The same cannot be said for the bullshit that is whatever the fuck that was going on between Everett and Julie, because when he wanted to ask her out and she read it as him wanting more and sent him away, she was all ready to change her mind when the second knock came to the door, as she thought that Everett had come back. The only reason why nothing happened between her and Everett that night was because the second knock was from Everett's father instead, who was still out looking for Meredith, something that Everett was no longer doing. I mean, it says a lot that her sister, who is so clearly distraught, ran away, and this girl was over here yapping about some man carving the hole in his soul into a pole in Alaska instead of, I don't know, panicking that she cannot find her sister. Like, girl, what the hell is what the hell is this? I am an only child, and yet I was like, what the fuck? And because the film knows that Meredith is 100% right to be angry at the betrayal, they pivot and have her instead feel guilty about her seemingly almost having had sex with Ben. And when it is revealed that nothing untoward happened between Meredith and Ben the previous night, we never come back to her justified anger at the entire mess. They just brushed everything under the carpet. This all ass movie felt like it wanted to push the edges of what a messy family tinged Christmas would be and skirt on the lines of these characters all being obnoxious and very much hated by the audience, except for maybe Meredith to some degree. We do not hate you, baby girl. But the film did not want to go all the way, which is why at the last moment it tosses in bits of emotional upturns to get us to feel sorry for Sybil and Amy and forgive Everett because, he might have wanted his girlfriend's sister, but hey, at least his girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, almost got together with his brother but didn't and later ended up doing so. And I thought I was going to get some good Christmas romantic comedy with this movie. But what I got was not the romance. I mean, come on. There was barely enough romance in this film, and I did not find a ton of it remotely funny. All I got was some needless drama, and Diane Keaton as always looking gorgeous. And you know what? Maybe that's the win that I have to take, I guess. But of course, these are just my thoughts. I would, as always, love to hear yours. Whether or not you agree with me or disagree with me, please share them in the comments. Like this video, however, if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet and have enjoyed anything I have to say. Share it so others can find my channel as well. Or you can check out my gaming or ASMR channels if they sound like something you might possibly potentially be interested in. I have them both linked in the description bar. I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.